Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and this week I'm tackling 3 vehicles for a Gaslands project, 2 vans and a 55 Chevy, and I'm trying to get it all done in one video. So if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of all future videos. Alright, so I have two vans and a 55 Chevy Gasser, and this is going to be part of a bigger project. These are like chase cars for a K7 Mad Max build that's coming up. And I was sent, this is a commission project, I was sent a bunch of parts. If you saw a couple unboxing videos ago, I've got tons of parts from Mad Cars and Ken Overby. All got sent to me in the skulls from Citadel as well, so I have plenty to work with and plenty of vehicles to do it with. The goal is just, when I first start a project like this, I really don't have a goal in mind aside from seeing what fits and what looks good. Sometimes whatever I have in mind doesn't really translate to what it's really going to be, so I'll just take some pieces, parts, and start playing around. I mean, I have a rough idea what I want when I start, but for the most part it kind of just blends as I move along. And I know I want to put a brush bar on each of the vehicles. I know I want certain tires, and other than that, I just kind of wing it. The super van, the white van that I'm holding right now, I kind of wanted to go more street, and I'm going to change for some steely wheels that I got off of a Bone Shaker or something, I'm not sure. But other than that, everything else is going to be 4-wheel drive. The castings are all in good shape, so for the most part there really wasn't anything that I had to do. The van that I'm working on right now is a Matchbox, and it's got the tab that holds the front and the rear wheels in. I was thinking about changing the wheels, so I started playing around with it, but in the end, nothing I had for wheels. I was going to put some dualies on the back. Nothing really looked good when I actually did it, so I kind of forewent that. The 55, I had more of a vision here, and this is kind of, again, how I start. I just start playing around and putting things on and see how it's going to look. The super van here, I keep calling it a super van, but the wheels for the rear, as far as being the right width, was fine, but the diameter was huge, so I have to radius out the wheel wells quite a bit, actually. And then I figured if I was going to do it, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, so I really overdid it and made it very pronounced. And you've heard me say this before if you've watched any of my videos for Gaslands, I tend to really enjoy it. You can see the wheel wells aren't even close. I tend to enjoy these types of builds because there's no rules. I screw up a ton in this project, and the good part about it is it's supposed to look like something done in the post-apocalyptic world where people didn't have plasma cutters and all these fancy tools. So if you screw it up, it's okay. So it's like a dream come true for me because I'm constantly screwing up, but I can hide it better with these kind of projects. So I use the grinding disc to start radiusing, and then it doesn't work as well, so I just use like a 1/2-inch barrel sander on my Dremel, and I just overdo the hell out of it just to make it fit. And in the end, it looks good. So again, you can screw up, and it's not a big deal. I got these 4x4 wheels that I want to put on the 55. And I get some front wheels off of, I don't know, it was a Matchbox 34 coupe, I think it was. I'm not sure. They have a little bit of a pattern on the side, so they look a little knobby, I guess you could say. The back ones I have to mount underneath because you remember the gasser stance is kind of reverse of what I wanted, so by putting a groove in the bottom of the 55 chassis I can mount those wheels. I ground down real quick with some, like a sanding attachment on my Dremel tool, just to get like the bulk of the paint off to speed up the citrus strip process. So that's what you see there. Once it's out of the stripper, I'm going to pretty much go over everything real quick with a wire brush. Not super important on these types of builds because I'm looking for a grungy look anyways, but I like to get it fairly clean, and then I'll wipe them down with some lacquer thinner just to just to make sure everything's got a good surface for the paint to adhere to. I flat black the chassis, all three of them, including the wheels. Just gives me something to work with. And the 55 being all chrome, I'm going to clear coat the engine, and then I'm going to paint the interior black as well. Here's the fun part. This is just putting bits on, just finding stuff that's going to work. Armor plating, turrets and guns. It's just, to me, this is the fun part. It's all mock-up, and that's what 90% of this project ends up being. Well, I say 90%. It's probably 60% mock-up and then 40% detail painting and trying to make it look like crap so that it would fit in the post-apocalyptic world. I'm using a wire tie there to attach to the guns on the big van, and it makes it look like an ammo feed. So that's what you saw there. And then I'm just going to go through all the bits and trim them up, and I kind of sand the backs of them down a little bit so that it'll adhere, and just start gluing stuff on. I'm not using anything fancy, just regular old super glue, or I think it's Gorilla Glue, super glue, and just start putting stuff on, seeing what works and what doesn't work. Super van, I wanted the guns mounted on the side, so I found two of the same and tried to make them up as quickly, as easy as I could. And then I'm using some diamond plate. I have to trim it a little bit to fit in the back, and it's going to be a replacement for the back window. The front treatment and the top treatment is just layering stuff, having different layers of things actually helps. So I'm using like some steel plate, and then I'm putting a almost like a vent grate on top. It just adds depth. I've got this corrugated plastic card stuff that came in my, I think it was like an assorted kit. So I'm kind of cutting some of that up. I'm using that for the almost like a divider for the front window. I was kind of playing around to see what was going to fit. I was going to put it off to the left, put it off to the right, ended up putting it in the middle. And you'll notice I'm not really focusing too much on, obviously at this stage, paint. I do all my mock-up first, and it might make it a little bit more difficult to paint after, especially the little pieces. But for me, I like to put it all on at once, and then I start adding my layers of paint to everything that's already on, so it just makes it easier for me. Here I'm adding a grate to the top of the super van, and I'm going to just put a couple pieces of what's going to look like steel, and then I'm going to mount that grate, which is actually fiberglass mesh. If you do like work on a Corvette or anything, fiberglass for a car, this is the stuff you lay down. It's real stiff and hard to work with, but for flat areas it's pretty good. So now I'm on the 55. I didn't want to do a ton to the 55, but I am going to put a Harpoon. I've yet to put a Harpoon on a vehicle. As you can see, I painted the interior black. So I'm going to notch out the back so somebody could stand in the back seat and shoot the Harpoon. So I'm just going to use my cutoff wheel to make a bunch of cuts straight down the center of the roof there where I have it marked off, and then I'm just going to pretty much go side to side. It'll knock them all out, and then I'll use my file to kind of make it fairly smooth, mainly so I don't get cut. It's ultimately not supposed to look perfect. And you can see I've got like a shield that goes in front of to protect the gunner or the harpoonist, if that's such a thing. So I'm going to lay some steel plate down, and I'm going to mount the Harpoon on that. I had a little bit of a hard time with the mix and match of the different materials. The Mad Car stuff, which is the Harpoon and the shield, and then Ken Overby stuff, it's just different plastics, so it didn't want to adhere as well. So once it's all mocked up, I am going to put a coat of Quicksilver on all the vehicles. and that's my Createx paint that I usually use for candy as a base coat. But it works out as a nice silver, and if you put it on just heavy enough, it almost has that aluminum look to it. So as a base coat, it's pretty good. I could have gone with any silver would work. And picking the base coat is totally up to each individual. I know a lot of people base coat black, but for me, I went with the silver, and then I'm going to use some of the Vallejo orange rust, and then like a brown. You can see the orange rust there, and then I'm going to I get the brown on there as well, just in splotchy areas, so it's not consistent. It just works as a good base. So I was watching a video on this Rise of Rust, which I've used in a lot of my videos. And in the video, the guy's, well, if you water it down, because I always dry brush this stuff on, he goes, if you water it down, it works as a good rust wash, and it'll dry really good, because I know the Rise of Rust looks orange, but when you dry brush it on over a typhus corrosion, which is more of a textured paint, it looks awesome. Does not look awesome this way. I don't think I watered it down enough, so when it dried orange, and it took a little bit to correct. Again, like I said, not everything goes perfect. The engine on the 55, I'm just giving it a wash with some Nuln Oil from Citadel, just to kind of grungy it up a little bit, because obviously being chrome is not good in the post-apocalyptic world. And the theme of the whole project, and this, I'm trying to tie things in together. The K7 that I'm going to be doing is going to be painted like an army green. So because these are like chase vehicles, I wanted to have something green on each one of them. So I did the front fender on the passenger side of the 55. I do the rear hatch on the super van, and on the other van I just do the hood, so it's a smaller area. But that way it all kinds of ties in together. I mean, it probably doesn't matter, but my OCD kicks in, and I wanted to have everything kind of match. Right now, if you look at the cars individually, it's not a big deal, but when the set is together, I wanted to have at least one thing that tied them all in together. So I'm just watering down some Citadel green. I don't even know what shade it was. So I'm trying to fix a little bit of that orange rust problem that I was just telling you about. So I'm dry brushing some lead belcher on the pipes of the van, and then on the base as well, to help dull it down a little bit. And then I'm kind of hitting some certain areas. And the thing with paint, when it comes to this stuff, is it's all about layering. And you'll see I'm using some things now that I'm going to show again later. I'm just slowly layering things right now. I'm painting all the silver things that I want, the metal diamond plate and the gun turrets and certain pieces of steel that are on the sides. And then I'm going to go back, and then I'll grunge those up, and then I'll highlight them again with a dry brush and silver. So it's all a matter of layering. And I'm not going to go and explain every single little thing. I cut a lot out. I mean, there's countless hours of just little detail work. Right now I'm using the Nuln Oil to, see, I got just tired of it. I just dumped the shit right in the plate. I'm trying to hide some of that orange that I put around that was supposed to be more rust. I end up washing almost the entire vehicles in the Nuln Oil, which is cool because it does give it a kind of a grungy, dirty, greasy look, which was really cool. I kind of streaked it on the sides of the van, so it looks like it's coming down from an area like at the top where the drip guards are, and it drips down. And you see right there, that's what I was doing. So you can experiment and play around. There's nothing you can do that's really going to screw anything up on these. It's all personal preference. And that's, again, why I love doing these things. I like building all kinds, customs, hot rods, trucks. But the Gaslands stuff, post-apocalyptic, for me, it's just fun. I can just do whatever I want. If I screw up, not a big deal. If I screw up on another build that's a hot rod, I got to strip it and repaint it. And this is no pressure, and I screwed up a lot. And I shouldn't probably admit that, but I do. So now here I'm taking that typhus corrosion I was talking about, and I'm just really laying it on there on all areas where I think there'd be a lot of rust buildup, maybe where the diamond plates meet the vehicle. You know, nobody's going to prime it first in this kind of environment. So, and then once that's dry, I go back over it with the riser rust the right way, as a dry brush, and it gives it the effect I'm looking for. So, but yeah, this was fun. I can't wait to do the K7 and the Boss car. It'll tie all these together, and but I'm going to wait a week. I get some other little projects I want to do. I don't like to do 2 Gaslands style videos in a row. But if you're watching this 3 months from now, then you can just watch both of them together. If you notice, I put a little cooler on the back of the, excuse me, on the back of the 55 Chevy, because in a post-apocalyptic world, pretty much all you have left is your wits and PBR. PBR survives the apocalypse, just so you know, and that goes in the cooler. And get some skulls. I'm finally putting those on. I'm just washing them. I primed them white, and then I'm going to use the Agrath Earthshade as a wash, which has a browner tint to it, so it really grunges it up and it makes the white look better. Just brush guards, detail work, paint, rust, everything just to tie it back in. Those are the only things I didn't put on ahead of time. And I used the skulls as air cleaners for the 55, and I used a chain to kind of chain down the Harpoon, and it goes around the back. And I put the brush guard for the van, I believe I put it on upside down on purpose. It just looked better that way. As always, thanks to my Patreon contributors: Chris Smith, Joey Williams, Kristen Stanland, Stephen Mance, William Robinson, Devil's Details Diecast, Matchbox Garage, Alvarez's Diecast Customs, Jim Silva, and Chris Stanifer. Check them all out, especially the ones with the YouTube icon next to them. They're linked down below in the video description. Those guys with the YouTube channels, they all kick ass. Really good guys. Make sure you check them out, watch their videos, and subscribe if you find it interesting. All that's left is the reveal of 3 vehicles. I only did a couple of videos, and the rest is pictures. I tried to condense this as much as I could. Hope you guys like it. If you do, I will catch you on the next one.